The ancient beacon pulsed with a rhythm that had remained unchanged for millions of years, its crystalline structure refracting starlight across the surface of Europa. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of Research Station Galileo, her breath creating small clouds in the cold air as she watched the excavation team work. After 3 months of careful digging through the moon's icy crust, they had finally reached what appeared to be an alien installation. Dr. Chen, her assistant's voice crackled through the comm. "You need to see this. The energy readings, they're off the charts." The beacon's discovery changed everything. Within months, humanity learned they weren't alone in the galaxy. Within a year, they had decoded enough of its technical data to achieve faster-than-light travel. Within 18 months, the United Earth Space Command launched its first diplomatic vessel, the UES Horizon, carrying humanity's brightest minds to the stars. Admiral James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Horizon, watching as the ship's quantum drive engaged for the first time. The vessel's revolutionary propulsion system, derived from the beacon's technology, bent space around them in ways that still seemed impossible. Their destination, a set of coordinates embedded within the beacon's data core. "Transit complete, Admiral," Lieutenant Maya Patol reported from her station. "We're exactly where we should be." But her voice trailed off as the main view screen activated. Before them floated a massive space station, its architecture unlike anything human minds had conceived. Curved spires of unknown metal stretched for kilometers, interconnected by bridges of pure energy. Around it, ships of various designs moved in complex patterns, like schools of exotic fish in an alien sea. Multiple contacts approaching. "Sir," Security Chief David Wong announced, his fingers dancing across his console. "Their energy signatures are considerable." The incoming vessels belonged to the Axorans, a species that had dominated this sector of space for millennia. Their ships resembled abstract art pieces, all sweeping curves and impossible angles, their hulls shimming with an iridescent coating that seemed to drink in light itself. First contact protocol initiated smoothly enough. The Axorans, led by High Commander Vexthor, invited a delegation aboard their station. Dr. Chen, Admiral Rodriguez, and a small team transported across, their hearts racing with the historic significance of the moment. The meeting chamber aboard the Axoran station defied human understanding. Walls shifted and flowed like liquid metal, while gravity seemed to change direction at random intervals. High Commander Vexthor, a towering figure with crystalline skin and multiple sets of eyes arranged in geometric patterns, regarded the humans with what they would later recognize as contempt. "You have accessed technology beyond your evolution level," Vexthor stated, his words translated by advanced systems. "This is a severe violation of galactic law. Your species requires supervision." Admiral Rodriguez maintained his diplomatic composure. "With respect, Commander, we discovered the beacon within our own solar system. Its knowledge was freely given." "Freely given?" Vexthor's crystalline skin flickered with patterns of light. "The beacons were left by the predecessors as tests. Species that accessed them prematurely must be corrected." The atmosphere in the chamber shifted palpably. Dr. Chen noticed the Axoran guards moving to strategic positions around the room. She caught Rodriguez's eye, giving him a subtle warning nod. "We came in peace," Rodriguez stated firmly, "to establish diplomatic relations. We have no interest in being corrected." Vexthor's response came in the form of action rather than words. Energy fields sprang up around the human delegation, trapping them in place. "Your species will be integrated into the Axoran Dominion. Resistance is inadvisable." What happened next would be remembered as the moment humanity showed its true nature. Dr. Chen activated a quantum transmitter hidden in her neural implant, sending a burst transmission back to Earth. Rodriguez triggered an EMP device disguised as a diplomatic gift, temporarily disrupting the station's systems. In the chaos that followed, the human team fought their way back to their transport point. The Horizon escaped, but not before recording the Axaran's full technological capabilities. They returned to Earth carrying both a warning and precious tactical data about humanity's first hostile alien encounter. As the Horizon limped back to Earth, its hull bearing the scars of Axaran weapons, humanity received its first lesson in galactic politics. The universe was not waiting with open arms. It was a harsh place where species fought for their right to exist independently. Earth's response would shock the galaxy. They had 18 months before the Axaran fleet would arrive. 18 months to prepare a surprise for their would-be conquerors. And in those months, humanity would show why it was unwise to underestimate the species that had gone from stone tools to spaceflight in the blink of a cosmic eye. The underground facility beneath the Himalayas stretched for kilometers, its vast chambers carved from living rock. Project Phoenix, humanity's answer to the Axaran threat, had transformed the mountain range into the largest research and development complex in human history. Dr. Marcus Zhang stood before a holographic display showing the prototype vessel taking shape in Lunar Shipyard 1. The ship defied conventional design philosophy, its hull composed of layered metamaterials that could adapt their properties in real time, inspired by the way octopi change their skin. The quantum probability drive is online, reported Dr. Amara Okafor, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of diagnostic screens. We've achieved 300% better efficiency than anything the Axarans demonstrated. She allowed herself a small smile. They don't know what we learned from that beacon. The beacon's data hadn't just contained star charts and propulsion theories. Hidden deep within its crystalline matrix lay the accumulated knowledge of dozens of extinct civilizations, species that had fallen to Axaran correction. Each had contributed their understanding of physics, mathematics, and technology before their end. Humanity now held their legacy. In orbit around Jupiter, Colonial Marshal Eva Torres watched as automated constructors swarmed around massive orbital platforms. These weren't the defensive stations the Axarans would expect. They were something far more innovative. Status report on the gravity web. She asked over the command channel. Phase 1 complete, Marshal, came the response. When activated, the network will create a localized space-time distortion field covering the entire solar system. The Axarans won't be able to use their FTL drives within our space. The gravity web represented just one component of Earth's defense strategy. In the asteroid belt, mining operations ran at full capacity, but they weren't just extracting resources. Each asteroid being hollowed out contained a surprise. Autonomous drone swarms equipped with weaponry that violated several laws of physics. Back on Earth, in a secured facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Chen worked with an international team to decode more of the beacon's secrets. They had discovered something extraordinary, evidence that the Axarans weren't the undisputed rulers they claimed to be. Other advanced species existed, many of whom resented Axaran dominance, but lacked the will to challenge it. Look at this, Chen said, pointing to a string of decoded data. The predecessors didn't leave the beacons as tests. They left them as weapons, tools for species to defend themselves against the Axarans. We're not the first to find one, but we might be the first to fully understand it. Admiral Rodriguez, now heading the Unified Earth Defense Force, received regular updates from all project sites. The Axarans had expected humanity to either submit or waste resources on conventional military preparations. They didn't understand human nature. The drive to innovate, to find unexpected solutions, to refuse accepting limitations. In labs across the globe, scientists worked on technologies that seemed impossible months ago. Quantum entanglement communications that couldn't be intercepted. Plasma weapons that could bypass advanced shields by exploiting higher dimensions. AI systems that could predict and counter Axaran battle tactics in real time. But humanity's greatest advantage wasn't technological. It was psychological. The Axarans believed in their superiority so completely that they never considered the possibility of defeat. They had grown complacent over millennia of unchallenged dominance. 16 months into the preparation period, humanity achieved its first major breakthrough. In a test chamber deep beneath the Australian outback, Dr. Zhang's team successfully demonstrated their revolutionary shield technology. Unlike conventional energy barriers, these shields didn't just block attacks. They absorbed energy and redirected it, growing stronger with each hit. The Axarans rely on overwhelming force, Zhang explained to the assembled military leaders. Their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they've never needed to develop efficiency. They don't expect enemies to turn their own energy against them. Marshal Torres oversaw the integration of these new technologies into Earth's defense strategy. The gravity web would trap the Axaran fleet in normal space. The metamaterial hulls would make Earth's ships nearly impossible to target. The redirecting shields would transform enemy attacks into power sources. And the drone swarms, they were the ace in humanity's sleeve. As the 18-month deadline approached, Earth appeared unchanged from space. No massive fleets in orbit, no obvious planetary defenses. To casual observation, it looked like humanity had accepted its fate. The Axarans would arrive expecting to find a primitive species awaiting correction. Instead, they would find humanity had spent every second preparing to teach the galaxy's bullies a lesson about underestimating lesser species. In hidden shipyards and secret facilities, humanity's response force waited. They had one chance to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars, not as subjects, but as equals. The final piece of the plan fell into place 2 weeks before the expected Axaran arrival. Dr. Chen's team decoded the beacon's last secret, the location of other species who had hidden themselves from Axaran dominance. Earth wouldn't have to stand alone. They just had to prove themselves worthy allies by striking the first successful blow against the empire that had dominated the galaxy for too long. The Axaran fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their ships casting long shadows across the void. 500 vessels strong, their formation spoke of absolute confidence, the arrogance of an empire that had never known defeat. High Commander Vexthor stood on his command deck, his crystalline form refracting starlight. Status of the human system, he demanded, expecting reports of panic and submission. Minimal activity detected, Commander, his sensor officer reported. Their orbital facilities appeared defensive only. No significant fleet presence. A pause. They seemed to have accepted their fate. Vexthor's surface rippled with patterns of satisfaction. Begin the approach. Standard subjugation protocol. The massive fleet moved forward, their drives leaving trails of exotic particles in their wake. As they passed Neptune's orbit, the first part of humanity's trap activated. The gravity web, hidden in dimensional space, snapped into existence. Alarms blared across the Axaran fleet as their FTL drives suddenly failed. Ships lurched, their momentum carrying them forward, but their ability to escape compromised. Vexthor's satisfaction turned to concern. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice carrying the first hints of uncertainty. Deep within the asteroid belt, Marshal Torres gave the order. Execute Operation Hydra. Thousands of asteroids suddenly burst apart, revealing their hidden contents. Swarms of autonomous drones, each smaller than a fighter, but carrying weapons beyond conventional understanding, poured forth like angry wasps from disturbed nests. The Axaran fleet's superior sensors detected the swarms too late. The drones, using technology derived from the beacon, phased between dimensions, becoming impossible to target effectively. They struck from angles that shouldn't exist, their weapons bypassing the mighty shields of Axaran warships. Impossible. Vexthor raged as reports of damage flooded in. They are primitives. How do they possess such technology? The answer came in the form of humanity's true fleet, emerging from hiding in Jupiter's radiation belts. Led by the EDS Phoenix, Earth's vessels looked nothing like conventional warships. Their hulls shifted and flowed like liquid metal, adapting to enemy fire in real time. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the Phoenix's bridge, watching as years of preparation came to fruition. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Show them what humanity can do. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. Earth's ships, though outnumbered, demonstrated capabilities that shocked their opponents. When Axiran weapons struck their shields, the energy was absorbed and redirected, powering devastating counterattacks. Dr. Chen, monitoring from Project Phoenix's command center, watched as their predictions proved accurate. The Axirans never evolved their tactics, she observed. They relied on brute force for so long, they forgot how to innovate. The drone swarms demonstrated this truth brutally. They moved in patterns developed by AI systems that had analyzed millions of potential combat scenarios. Where Axiran ships concentrated their fire, the swarms divided. Where they divided their attention, the swarms concentrated into devastating strike forces. High Commander Vexthor watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. His own ship, protected by the most powerful shields in the Axiran arsenal, found itself trapped in a web of gravitational distortions while drones systematically disabled its weapons. "This is High Commander Vexthor," he broadcast on all frequencies, his voice carrying a tremor never before heard in Axiran communications. "Fall back to secondary positions. We must regroup and—" His transmission cut off as the Phoenix appeared directly ahead of his command ship, emerging from what appeared to be a localized fold in spacetime itself. The human vessel's metamaterial hull reflected the light of distant stars, making it seem almost alive. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force," a new voice announced across all channels. "Your fleet is trapped. Your weapons are ineffective. You will power down your ships and prepare to be boarded, or we will demonstrate just how much more of our capabilities remain unused." The silence that followed was profound. Across the Axiran fleet, crews looked to their commanders in confusion. Never in their history had they faced such a situation. Their tactics assumed overwhelming superiority. They had no protocols for fighting an enemy that could counter their every advantage. In the depths of space, the battle had drawn unexpected observers. Cloaked ships from other species, those who had hidden from Axiran dominance for generations, watched with growing interest. Humanity had done more than survive. They had revealed the Axirans could be defeated. The galaxy was about to change, and the species that had claimed dominion over all others was learning a harsh lesson. True strength lies not in overwhelming force, but in the ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome. Humanity had just demonstrated this truth in a way that would reshape galactic civilization. News of the Axiran defeat spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. In hidden systems and secret outposts, species that had lived in fear for millennia began to emerge from the shadows. The impossible had happened. The invincible had been proven vulnerable. Aboard the Phoenix, now transformed into a diplomatic vessel, Dr. Sarah Chin prepared to meet the first representatives of these hidden civilizations. The ship's conference room hummed with anticipation as beings of incredible diversity arrived through carefully controlled quantum tunnels. The Meridians came first, their crystalline bodies similar to the Axirans, but fractured and beautiful in their imperfection. Their spokesperson, a being called First Light After Storm, approached Chen with movements that suggested both hope and caution. "For 10,000 years, we hid in the spaces between stars," First Light communicated through a translator. "We watched as the Axirans claimed dominion over all they surveyed. Now you have shown us another way." The Void Weavers arrived next, beings of pure energy contained within sophisticated environmental suits. Their representative, a consciousness calling itself Deep Thought in Darkness, pulsed with colors that their cultural liaison interpreted as excitement and curiosity. Admiral Rodriguez stood beside Chen as more delegates arrived. The silicon-based Lithosians, the gaseous nebulari, and others whose physiologies defied human understanding. Each brought stories of oppression, of cultures forced to hide or submit to Axiran correction. "We've studied your battle," Deep Thought in Darkness communicated. "You didn't just defeat them, you rendered their entire tactical doctrine obsolete. The Axirans have never faced an enemy who could turn their strength against them." In the weeks that followed, a coalition began to form. Each species brought unique perspectives and technologies to the table. The Meridians had mastered crystal computing beyond anything Earth had achieved. The Voidweavers understood energy manipulation at a fundamental level. The Lithosians had developed stealth technologies that could hide entire star systems. But it was humanity's ability to innovate, to combine these different approaches in unexpected ways, that proved most valuable. Dr. John worked with Meridian scientists to enhance the metamaterial hull technology. Marshall Torres collaborated with Voidweaver strategists to develop new applications for the gravity web. The Axorans, however, weren't finished. Reports came in of their empire mobilizing on an unprecedented scale. Their entire society, built on the assumption of superiority, couldn't accept defeat. They would rather risk everything than admit their age of dominance had ended. "They're gathering their forces at these coordinates," Torres reported during a strategic meeting, highlighting several star systems on a holographic display. The Lithosians' sensor networks confirmed they're stripping defenses from their core worlds. They're preparing for all-out war. The Coalition faced its first major test when an Axoran battle group attacked a Meridian outpost. They expected to find a weak target. Instead, they encountered a defense system combining human shield technology with Meridian crystals and Voidweaver energy manipulation. The battle group was disabled without a single shot fired. Their weapons and drives crystallized into useless formations. More victories followed. The Coalition, learning to work together, began systematically dismantling the infrastructure of Axoran control. Hidden resistance movements on occupied worlds, emboldened by news of the Empire's defeat, rose up with newfound courage. Dr. Chen made another breakthrough while working with First Light after Storm. The beacons left by the predecessors weren't just weapons. They were part of a vast network designed to unite species against tyranny. Each contained pieces of a larger puzzle, a technology that could fundamentally change how civilizations interacted with space-time itself. The predecessors didn't just want us to defeat the Axorans, Chen explained to the Coalition Council. They wanted us to build something better. A galaxy where power doesn't come from dominance, but from cooperation and innovation. The Coalition's successes attracted more allies. Species that had grudgingly served the Axorans began defecting, bringing with them intelligence about Empire movements and capabilities. The balance of power shifted with each passing day. In their hidden strongholds, the Axoran leadership faced a reality they had never imagined. Their empire, built on the assumption of intellectual and technological superiority, was being systematically dismantled by the very species they had dismissed as primitive. Worse, their own subject worlds were beginning to question doctrines that had gone unchallenged for millennia. The galaxy was transforming, and at the heart of this change stood humanity, not as conquerors, but as catalysts. They had proven that innovation, adaptability, and cooperation could overcome even the most entrenched power. The final confrontation with the Axoran Empire loomed, but now it would be faced not by Earth alone, but by a coalition of species united in their desire for freedom. The Axoran homeworld hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline cities refracting starlight in complex patterns. Around it, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history prepared for its final stand. 10,000 ships, the entire remaining strength of an empire that had ruled for millennia, gathered to defend their capital. They faced not just humanity now, but a coalition of species united by a common cause. Ships of designs as varied as their crews moved into position. Human vessels with their adaptive hulls, Meridian crystal ships that seemed to grow rather than be built, Voidweaver craft that phased between dimensions, and dozens of other species' contributions to the Liberation Fleet. Aboard the Phoenix, Admiral Rodriguez stood with representatives from every coalition species. The ship, enhanced by their combined technologies, had become a symbol of what different civilizations could achieve together. "The Axorans are broadcasting," Lieutenant Patel announced from her station. The main screen activated, showing High Council Chamber of the Axoran Empire. The assembled councilors, their crystalline forms rigid with pride, faced the camera. "You cannot comprehend what you are destroying," the high speaker declared, his form pulsing with patterns of fury and despair. We brought order to chaos. We elevated lesser species. Without our guidance, the galaxy will descend into anarchy. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You confused order with control, guidance with dominance. The predecessors left us their knowledge not to test us, but to help us resist you. They saw what you would become. The revelation struck the council like a physical blow. Patterns of shock rippled through their crystalline forms as the truth they had denied for so long finally broke through their certainty. The beacons, first light after storm added, were never tests. They were keys to unlock the potential in all species. Humanity didn't just use their key. They shared it, proving themselves worthy of the predecessors' trust. The battle that followed would be remembered not for its destruction, but for its precision. The Coalition fleet, guided by combined tactical AI systems and coordinated through quantum entanglement networks, moved like a single organism. The gravity web, now enhanced by Voidweaver understanding of dimensional physics, deployed around the Axaran fleet. But this time, its purpose wasn't to trap, it was to demonstrate. The web created a space where weapons couldn't function, where the raw power the Axarans relied upon became useless. In this neutral zone, the Coalition proved that superior numbers and weaponry meant nothing without the ability to adapt and innovate. Dr. Zhang, working with a team of multi-species scientists, activated the final protocol they had discovered within the beacons. Energy waves rippled across space, affecting not ships or weapons, but the fundamental way different species could interact with reality. The predecessors didn't want us to fight, Chen explained as the waves spread. They wanted us to understand. This technology doesn't just change how we travel through space. It changes how we can communicate, how we can learn from each other. The Axaran fleet, faced with technology they couldn't understand and couldn't counter, found themselves in a position they had forced upon countless other species, the position of having to choose between adaptation or obsolescence. In the end, it wasn't weapons that won the day. It was the sight of former subject species working together, advancing beyond what the Axarans had thought possible. The empire that had prided itself on elevating lesser species was forced to confront the reality that their control had actually been holding the galaxy back. The surrender, when it came, was anticlimactic. The Axaran High Council, their certainty shattered, faced a truth they had never considered. True strength lay not in forcing others to follow, but in learning to walk beside them. In the years that followed, the galaxy transformed. The Coalition became the foundation of united species, with Earth serving not as its leader, but as a symbol of what determination and cooperation could achieve. The Axarans, stripped of their empire but not their knowledge, slowly learned to contribute as equals rather than rulers. The predecessor's network, fully activated for the first time in millions of years, opened new possibilities for exploration and understanding. Species that had been separated by fear and distance began sharing knowledge, culture, and dreams of what they could accomplish together. Admiral Rodriguez, standing on the observation deck of the new Foundation headquarters, watched ships of all designs moving through space. Next to him, Dr. Chen worked with a mixed team of humans and aliens, studying the ever-expanding possibilities of their combined knowledge. We never needed to be corrected, she said, looking out at the busy space lines. We just needed the chance to prove what we could become. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The age of empire had ended, replaced by an era of cooperation and shared discovery. Humanity had done more than resist dominance. They had shown a better way forward. And in doing so, they had helped create something greater than any empire, a future where every species could reach its full potential, not through force, but through the simple, powerful act of working together. In the depths of space, the ancient beacons continued their vigil, their purpose finally fulfilled. They waited for the next species that would need their knowledge, ready to guide them not to power, but to understanding. The galaxy had entered a new age, and its story was just beginning.